Hey guys, welcome back to Ripestories. In this malicious compliance Reddit story, a ridiculous Karen boss fired the entire creative department to replace it with AI in order to save money. She thought she held all the cards, but she made one critical mistake. She did not read the fine print on the non-compete clause. Let's dive right into the video. But first, we will read a malicious compliance story that is titled, "You're the boss?" Okay, you are the boss. So back in 2021, I was working from home with a team of about 20 people in my department. To summarize our job, it was monitoring credit cards. We worked pretty independently and efficiently, so the company, to award this, literally promoted the entire department and tripled our pay. And with this, they emphasized that we should be more independent, take more responsibility, and all of that. And yeah, everyone was super okay with it. But then 6 months later, as every story on this subreddit goes, there was a change in management. The manager took a job at another bank, and our supervisor was fired for doing the deed in company grounds. Pretty cool guy, but terrible choosing where to screw. The new manager was pretty competent. As far as I know, she is still in the position. The problem was the new supervisor to our department, aka the best friend of new manager. He came into the job knowing absolutely zero about what we did and immediately wanted to demand results. But then again, he knew nothing about what we did, so he would demand results in the wrong places, always asking for overtime even when we didn't need, complaining about how we didn't use formal language on the group chat and so on. One relevant thing he learned on his first week is that I was supposed to take his job before he came along. Well, my old supervisor was training me to take his job because he was about to leave anyway, and everyone on my team came to me when they needed something, be it help with a demand or advice on something work-related, and he was quick to remind me of that, and he asked me to hop on a call with him and reminded me that he was the boss. He told me if anyone asked me for something to tell them to go to him. I said okay. Well, this backfired very quickly, since he didn't know anything about what he did. He didn't know how to help all the people coming to him, and then after a few days they stopped asking him since he could never help and came back to me again. By the way guys, if I sound a little bit sick today, my apologies. I hope this is getting better soon. Anyway, then again, he told me to hop in a call with him, and his new strategy was to whenever someone asked him something, he would then ask me so he could tell them. Again, I said okay. After a month of this, our production was at the lowest it had been in 3 years, but he was happy since everyone was going to him and getting, albeit longer responses. So he had to look somewhere else to cause intrigue. He started to bicker on when people took their breaks. Our journey was 8 hours a day with 3 breaks, 2 10-minute breaks and an hour break. Everyone had their time to go to these breaks, but since it didn't impact our job in the slightest, everyone just went when it was most convenient for them. All my colleagues started complaining to me that they were busting their boards for this until it became my time. He went on a 10-minute rant on why I should not take my 1-hour break 30 minutes before I was supposed to. I told him it was because I went to a bakery close to my house every day because I was tired to make dinner, and he said to take my break 30 minutes early, otherwise it would be closed. He said if I wanted to go to the bakery, I should go on my own personal time when I'm off the clock, and I said okay. But what he said gave me an idea for me to go on my own personal time. As per company code, beside those 1 hour and 20 minutes of break, you have up to 1 hour of personal break per day, in which you can take whenever you need for whichever personal reason. I told my colleagues this, and now every day, 1 hour before my 1 hour break, I would take 1 hour of personal break to go to the bakery, buy my lunch, and my colleagues would do similar things that they needed to do during the time they were used to take their breaks. And then 2 months later, the entire department was terminated since we were not bringing in enough revenue to the company. Well, unfortunately, the supervisor was not let go until last week, and the department he took over also was terminated. Another disclaimer to anyone worried that about 20 people lost their jobs. We have a pretty niche set of skills, and everyone quickly found jobs of similar paying wages. No one was sad to be fired. We were actually pretty happy. A few even resigned before the ship sunk. And yeah guys, never deny a good employee their break. That is obviously the golden rule. Anyway, the next one is titled, "Karen Boss Fires My Team to Save Money." Also posted on r/MaliciousCompliance on Reddit. So I worked for a marketing agency for several years. And by the way guys, if you enjoy the malicious compliance stories, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That would be very much appreciated. Anyway, when I started it, it was a small operation run by the original owner, a genuinely good guy who built the company from nothing. He treated his employees like family, paid fair wages, and actually listened when we had concerns. The company grew steadily over the years, and I moved up from a junior position to eventually leading a team of 12 people in the creative department. My team was, if I'm being honest, the backbone of the entire operation. We handled all the client-facing creative work, ad campaigns, branding, packages, social media content, video production, the works. We were the reason the clients stayed with the company, and we were the reason new clients came through word of mouth. I'm not trying to brag here, I'm just stating facts that become very relevant later. The original owner decided to sell the company and retired. I mean, he deserved it honestly. He had built something great and wanted to enjoy his golden years. He assured all of us that the new owner understood the company culture and would maintain the things that made us successful. And he was wrong. Very wrong. Enter Karen. I'm not using her real name, but trust me when I say the name fits perfectly. Karen came from a corporate background and she had zero experience in the actual creative industry. What she had in abundance was confidence. The kind of confidence that comes from never being told that you are wrong, or more accurately, never listening when people try to tell you. For the first few months, Karen just observed. She shadowed different departments, asked questions, and took a lot of notes. We all thought this was a good sign. Maybe she was actually trying to learn the business before making changes. We were so naive. The changes started small. First, she cancelled the monthly team lunches that the previous owner had always paid for. Unnecessary expense, she said. Then she cut the coffee budget. We went from having decent coffee in the break room to whatever generic brand was on sale at the warehouse store. Then she eliminated work from home Fridays, something that had been a perk for years. My team started grumbling, but I tried to keep the morale up. I told them these were minor things in the grand scheme and maybe she was just trying to find her footing or something. I genuinely believed that at the time, but then came the meeting that changed everything. Karen called me into her office on a Tuesday afternoon. She had this big fake smile plastered on her face, the kind that never reaches the eyes. "I've been looking at these numbers," she said, sliding a spreadsheet across her desk towards me. "Your department is our biggest expense." "Well, yeah," I said slowly, like I was explaining something to a child. "We are also the department that generates all the client revenue. The creative work is literally what we sell." She waved her hand dismissively. "I understand that, but I've been doing some research and I think we can significantly reduce costs while maintaining output." I felt a chill go down my spine. What exactly do you mean by that?" "I found a wonderful company overseas that can handle all of our creative work at a fraction of the cost. We are talking about saving 60 to 70% on labor costs. Furthermore, these guys know how to use AI, so we can save even more money." I stared at her for a long moment, waiting for the punchline, but it didn't come. "So you want to outsource our entire creative department and replace us with AI? By the way, guys, as an insider, I'm not entirely sure if maybe OP is one of the creative minds or was one of the creative minds behind Battlefield 6 before they apparently outsourced the art. Anyway, not immediately," she said, still smiling that horrible smile. "We will do it in phases. I will need you to train them on our processes and client preferences. You'll be the liaison between our company and the outsourcing firm. I'm even willing to give you a small raise for taking on the additional responsibility." "And my team?" I asked. "We will be letting them go over the next 3 months as we transition. Nothing personal, just business." I sat there in stunned silence. So this woman was asking me to train my replacements and then watch as she fired everyone I'd worked with for years. I don't think this is a good idea," I said carefully. "Our clients specifically work with us because of the quality of our work. They know our team members by name. They even have relationships with us." Karen laughed, and it was not a friendly laugh. "Clients don't care who does the work as long as it gets done. Trust me, I've been in business for 30 years. They'll never notice the difference." "I think they will." Her smile finally dropped. "I'm not asking for your opinion on the business decision. I'm informing you of how things are gonna work going forward. You can either be part of the solution or part of the problem. Which is it?" I wanted to tell her exactly where she could shove her solution, but I had a mortgage, car payments, and a family to support. So I did what most people in my situation would do. I said I needed time to think about it, and I went back to my desk to figure out my options. So that night, I called a few of my team members who I was closest with. We met up at a bar and I told them what was coming. Their reactions ranged from disbelief to anger to then resignation. One of my senior designers, who had been with the company almost as long as I had, asked a question that was on everyone's mind. What are we gonna do? I'd been thinking about it all day. I have an idea, but it's gonna require us all to be on the same page. Over the next few weeks, I played the part of the dutiful employee. I attended meetings with Karen about the transition plan. I documented processes. I created training materials. I did everything she asked me to do, meticulously and thoroughly, but what Karen did not know was that I was also doing something else. See, our company had a pretty standard non-compete clause in our contracts. It prevented employees from working for direct competitors or starting a competing business within a certain radius for a certain period of time after leaving, but the clause had a critical flaw. It only applied if you voluntarily left the company. If you were fired or laid off, the non-compete was void. I had a lawyer look at this years ago when I was considering leaving for another opportunity, and it was actually the previous owner who had pointed out the loophole to me, laughing and saying he had never actually enforced a non-compete anyway, because he was not that kind of person. Karen was definitely that kind of person though, but the loophole was still there, so here was my plan. Let Karen fire my entire team as planned. And with the non-compete voided, we would be free to start our own competing agency, and we would be taking our expertise, our relationships, and our knowledge of every client's preferences with us. But I couldn't just start a competing business with no clients. That would be suicide. I needed to make sure that when we launched, we would have business walking in the door. This is where the malicious compliance comes in, and the reason that I'm posting in this subreddit. Karen had given me very specific instructions. She wanted me to create comprehensive documentation of everything, our processes, our client relationships, our strategies, our contacts. She wanted me to make it easy so that anyone, including an overseas team with no context, could pick up where we left off. So that's exactly what I did. I created the most thorough documentation you've ever seen, every single detail about every single client. Their preferences, their pet peeves, who the key decision makers were, what their budgets looked like, and when their contracts were up for renewal. I documented everything we had ever done for them and what had worked and what hadn't. Karen was thrilled. She kept telling me how impressed she was with my professionalism and how this documentation would make the transition seamless, but what she didn't realize was that I was also giving copies of all this documentation to every member of my team. And I did something else. Every client I worked with during this period, I made sure to mention very casually that changes were coming to the company. I never badmouthed Karen or the company directly. I just let them know that the team they'd been working with might not be around much longer, and if they ever needed to reach me personally, here was my contact info. And the clients noticed. Of course they did. I mean, these were people we had worked with for years. They asked questions and I answered them honestly without revealing any proprietary information. The business was under new ownership and new ownership was making changes. I was not sure what my future with the company would be. Several clients told me, unprompted, that they worked with the company specifically because of my team. If we were not there, they said, they would have to reconsider the relationship. I noted every single one of those conversations. 3 months went by and Karen started executing her plan. She let go of 3 team members the first month, 4 the second month, and the remaining 5 the third month. She gave each of them their severance packages and their walking papers, completely unaware that she was handing them their freedom. The day before my own termination, Karen called me into her office again. She was smiling, but it looked strained. "I've had some concerning feedback from clients," she said. "Several have mentioned that they are unhappy with the transition." I kept my face neutral. "Well, I'm sorry to hear that." "Is there something specific?" "They are saying the quality of work has dropped significantly. The overseas team doesn't seem to understand their brands." "Well, I can take a look at the work if you want," I offered, "but my last day is tomorrow and I'm not sure how much help I can provide." Her smile tightened even more. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. I'm wondering if you would consider staying on in an advisory capacity, part-time of course, just to help smooth over the transition." I pretended to think about it and said, "What kind of compensation are we talking about?" She named a figure that was about 1/3 of what I'd been making. "Well, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think that's gonna work for me. I've already made other arrangements." Her face went from fake friendly to genuinely angry in about half a second. "What other arrangements?" "I'd rather not say, but I wish you and the company the best of luck." I left her office, cleaned out my desk, and walked out of that building for the last time. After this, my team and I had pooled our resources to rent a small office space. We had registered as a new company, we had set up all the infrastructure we needed, and on the day we officially launched, I sent out emails to every client I'd been documenting for the past 6 months. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within the first week, we had signed contracts with 11 former clients of Karen's company. Within the first month, that number had grown to 23. By the end of the first quarter, we had more clients than we could even handle and had to start hiring additional staff. Karen, meanwhile, was watching her company implode. The overseas team she had contracted with was, to put it charitably, not great. They had missed deadlines and they produced substandard work. They did not understand the nuances of the brands that they were supposed to be representing. Clients complained and then they left. Karen tried to salvage things by hiring local freelancers, but they were expensive and unreliable. She tried to poach employees from competitors, but nobody wanted to work for a company with a reputation for firing its entire creative department. She even tried to win back clients, but by then, most of them had signed contracts with other agencies, including ours. I heard that she blamed everyone but herself. She blamed the overseas team for being incompetent, she blamed the previous owner for not warning her about how difficult the clients were, and she blamed me for not training the replacements properly. She even tried to blame the economy, despite the fact that every other agency in the area was doing fine. About 6 months after we launched, I got a letter from a lawyer. Karen was essentially threatening to sue me and my new company for theft of trade secrets and violation of my non-compete agreement. And I was expecting this. I had been prepared for it from the beginning. My lawyer responded with a detailed letter pointing out 2 key facts. First, my non-compete was void because I'd been terminated, not because I'd voluntarily left. Second, we had not stolen any trade secrets because everything we knew from years of working in the industry. Client preferences are not trade secrets. Knowing that a particular client likes blue instead of green is not proprietary information. Karen's lawyer apparently advised her that she had no case because we never heard from them again, but the story doesn't end there. Oh no, the best part was yet to come. About a year after I left, I got a call from someone I didn't expect. It was the original owner. He had heard about what had happened. Karen had approached him about buying back into the company. She was hemorrhaging money and clients, and she was desperate for someone with industry expertise to help right the ship. She had offered him a partnership. "What did you tell her?" I asked. He smiled. I told her no, of course, but I also told her that if she was interested in selling the company outright, I might know some people who'd be interested. "Are you serious?" "I'm getting older," he said. "I don't want to run a company again. But I'd be willing to invest in one that I believe in, run by people I trust." We talked for another 2 hours. By the end of lunch, we've had the outline of a deal. The original owner would provide capital, my team and I would provide expertise and sweat equity. Together, we would make an offer on Karen's failing company. It took another 6 months of negotiations. Karen fought it every step of the way. She refused to accept that her grand cost-cutting experiment had failed. She kept insisting that the problem was the people, not her strategy. If she could just find the right employees, the right overseas partners, the right clients, everything would turn around, but the numbers didn't lie. The company was losing money every month, clients were leaving faster than she could replace them, her creditors were getting nervous, and finally, her own investors forced her hand. They gave her an ultimatum: sell or declare bankruptcy, so she sold. To us. I will never forget the day we signed the papers. Karen sat across the table from me, signing document after document, her face completely expressionless. She didn't say a word to me the entire time, didn't congratulate us, didn't wish us well, didn't even acknowledge that she knew who I was. I thought about all the people she had fired, all the lives she had disrupted, all the relationships she had damaged with her arrogance and her cost-cutting obsession. I thought about the months of stress and uncertainty my team had endured because of her decisions. "I didn't ruin you," I said. "You ruined yourself. We just built something better." She stood there for a long moment and I could see her trying to formulate a response, but nothing came. She turned around and walked out the door. We never saw her again. The aftermath was better than I could have imagined. We merged my new company with the assets of the old one. We brought back several of the employees Karen had fired, the ones who hadn't moved on to other opportunities. We reached out to former clients who had been burned by the overseas experiment and offered to repair those relationships. And let me tell you, the response was incredible. Clients came back in droves. They told us how much they missed working with people who actually understood their brands, who remembered their preferences, and who picked up the phone when they called. We grew faster than any of us expected. Within a few years, we were larger than the original company had ever been. We hired new talent, expanded into new services, and opened a second office in another city. And yeah guys, it's always good to see cost-cutting measures by stupid Karen bosses leading to their demise. It is always satisfying. And the next one is a beautiful malicious compliance story that is titled "Lazy Boss Demands I Do As He Says or Quit." So back in around 2000, I was a freshman in college. I did not have a wealthy family but got good scholarships from grades, but I still had to work 20 hours a week to make ends meet. I ended up working in the school cafeteria as a dishwasher, and this position paid extra compared to other student positions, and I also got a free meal each shift. There were a couple of full-time staff supplemented by our students. They of course got the clean side of the conveyor belt washer. These guys were all great, very nice to our students. The other 3 spots, first spot on conveyor to pull silverware, cups, garbage, etc., second conveyor spot rinsing, stacking dishes, and the person loading washer, were typically students. So the first quarter goes good. We're a bit short-handed, but the group I usually worked with got on well, and we all learned which spots we were fastest at. So when it was real busy, we would all go where fastest to keep from getting overwhelmed, and when slower, we would rotate to break up monotony. Second quarter rolls around and someone in management decided we needed a dish room supervisor. Enter the new hire, Kevin. Kevin is a lazy jackass. He would spend 1 to 2 hours eating and would only come in to yell at us before disappearing, and yeah, we all hated him. Well, one night it happened. Kevin decided he was gonna order which spot we worked at. Of course, he did this on a shift we were shorter than usual, and somehow managed to put all 3 of us in our slowest spots. I of course tried to explain we had been in different spots and should stay there, but Kevin was having none of it. He told me to shut up and do as he said, or quit. So, what did I do? Well, I did. I said I was done and walked out. His expression was priceless, even better when I changed and came back for dinner. He was having to work himself in the first conveyor spot, close by tray drop-off, so I made sure to smile at him. I apologized to my friends for dipping out on them, but they understood. They did not last too much longer either, but Kevin apparently treated them nicer afterwards. And yeah guys, thank you for watching, please don't forget to subscribe and I will see you again tomorrow.